Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Live, our second for 2019 and our first with a game to actually talk about this week, albeit a disappointing result. Joining me tonight in the CrowCast studio, we have Macca. How you going, Macca? Welcome back.
Yep, thank you very much. It's very good to be back. Looking forward to a very intelligent tonight as usual.
You're on the wrong podcast, mate.
Oh, shit.
I was going to say, Mac has forgotten what we're really like.
Well, I heard last week, I thought I'd better bring some political correctness back.
Yeah, well, wow. Nikki, how are you, Nick?
I'm very good, but just I'd like to introduce our women's players to the concept of kicking between the two really big sticks.
That'd be nice.
That'd be new.
And not aiming at one of them.
Given what a rudderless ship we were last week, it's very, very pleasing to have Pete back for his first episode this year. Welcome back, Pete.
Very kind of you, Fane. Thanks very much. Great to be back, and really looking forward to a good 2019 and Happy New Year to everybody out there, and also all the panellists, Nikki and Macca and Fane. Hope you all had a great break and New Year, and can't wait to get back into it.
Yeah, it's good to be back, isn't it?
It is very good to be back, and without further ado, I think we should head straight into some news. What do you reckon?
Sounds good. Well, I think there's a little bit of news. Sorry, Nikki, I think you were just going to jump in there, but I'll just quickly jump in with Daniel Talia. Did I read something today that it sounds like he's aggravated his injury with some bed-related incident? Was that a parody account, or did that really happen?
I don't think so.
No idea.
I saw something today on. I might just pull out for a minute and do some research, because I saw something that Daniel Talia had done.
It's a G-rated
aggravated
show.
His injury.
So you're going to pull out and investigate the bed claims?
I'm going to. I'm just jumping into 2019 just with all guns blazing. Nikki, you go and do the news you're going to do, and I'm going to go and research that.
All I was going to say was, do we just start laughing now about Jack Watts? Because really, is that all there to do? Dude, you're an idiot.
Well, it wasn't Coke.
Seriously. Yeah.
Well, I think
it doesn't matter. It is the height of stupidity.
Yeah, Malcolm Blight probably summed him up well. He said he is possibly the worst number one ever. So, and then I guess that not only takes into account his mediocre football ability, but also his obviously lack of common sense between the ears, because, we've had the text situation with him and the prostitutes and all the rest of that before. Now we've got this latest... Beg pardon?
Sex workers is the correct term, Macca.
Well, whatever. And but the guy he's not too bright, is he?
Can I just jump? Sorry, can I just jumping back in, because I'm very excited, and I know that the Jack Watt stuff is. You're
very
funny.
excited after having investigated the bedroom news with Daniel Talia and pulling out.
I am excited because here we go. It's in the Advertiser. Adelaide Crows key defender Daniel Talia on track to be ready for round one despite bizarre bed injury. Now, no, that's not the NT News. That is the Advertiser that's actually put that out. Adelaide fullback Daniel Talia has revealed it was a simple roll in bed that set back his preparations for 2019 for almost 3 months.
He was role-playing in bed.
There's a roll in bed.
Oh, right, okay.
R-O-L-L.
So
not R-O-L-E.
No Batman suit.
So that's all I can say. The rest of it's paywalled, but that's. So I was right. He has aggravated his injury with some kind of bizarre bed injury. There you go.
Well, no, that was what the original, when he aggravated it at home. It was that. So he hasn't done anything since. I did a quick look as well. That's all I could say.
Does that mean he was thrown a leg over or something? Like, what does it actually mean?
He rolled over in bed and hurt his knee.
Will he ever live it down? That's the thing.
So this is not new.
Oh, come on! A rollover in bed is nothing for Daniel Talia after he had the cat vomit.
Oh.
What?
Don't go any further.
Cat vomited in the car, which is why he was speeding.
He's got to stop being such a pussy in bed, I reckon.
There we go.
Yeah,
he's got a Bengal. Do not mess with those cats.
Clean that up substantially too, Pete. It could have been a whole lot worse.
Could have been a whole lot worse. Anyway, sorry, go on with Jack Watts. Sorry, Nick.
Well, it's just the height of stupidity. And I didn't watch the video, but I've seen a few comments because nobody's been able to talk about anything else. But it appears that he pretty much knew he was being filmed and he was okay with being filmed. But the thing that gets me is somebody's held on to this for a while and is only releasing it now, which is very interesting that they kind of waited till close enough in the season went, this is what's going to get a splash. Now we'll do it.
Yeah, interesting. I was reading about it that he was privy to the fact that he was.
Sorry.
We've got gremlins.
Did I say the wrong thing? What I was going to say is that he was privy to the fact that he was being filmed because apparently he said, "Now you ready? You ready?" Then he started doing his snorting and burying his nose in amongst her boobs and all the rest of it, which apparently he's got a fetish for. But he's not the brightest of boys. Not the brightest.
He's definitely not committed to really playing football. And there's interesting that we've also had another footballer former from Melbourne who's not that committed to really playing football in Thomas Bugg.
Yeah, just before we move on to Thomas Bugg, I'm just going to play devil's advocate here on Jack Watts because I think it's very easy for Malcolm Blight to sit back and say, he's the worst number one draft pick ever. But Jack Watts didn't pick himself at number one. It's not his bloody fault he got picked at number one.
No, that's an excellent comment in that sense. I have to agree with you. He's making an observation, but I do understand your point. Is to Watts, that's an unfair comment. To the rest of the world, it's probably correct.
I mean, it's a fair observation.
I agree, Fiend. You're very accurate with that. I think that's a poor comment to characterise him in that way, he's got some kind of responsibility because other people put him in that position.
Well, and let's face it, I reckon he's getting vilified more than what Dixon got vilified for actually using cocaine.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment too.
You know, I mean, it was what Watts did was in public. It was with a substance that is widely known in Germany. Yes, it looked bad, but it's easily explained. Storming a teacup, and I think it's a very interesting point you make, Pete, about people hanging on to it. Someone's got some sort of agenda.
10 out of 10 for Matthew Hoare on the chat. For anyone not looking at the chat at the moment, he's come up with the power from Port. It's more than a snort. I do like that, Hoare. That's
nice.
Very, very nice work there on the chat. So there you go, people. If you're not on the Spreaker chat, you should be because you're getting comments like that are bloody hilarious.
Quality. That is quality. Now, Thomas
and
Bugg.
then occasionally we join in. Yeah, well, for me, it's that whole thing of Melbourne. These are two Melbourne players, and the fact. Well, we also kind of laugh about the Thomas Bugg thing because he had a chance, a secondary chance at Carlton of all places, and decided he didn't like it there, and he's getting more money from his company, which provides a bit of money and assistance to social media influencers who do make, if they're good, they make six figures. It's not a.
What is a social media influencer?
I was going to ask the same question.
Basically what it is that you have larger audiences now for advertising through social media than you do through traditional methods. So it's actually a lot cheaper for companies to advertise with them. So what they'll do is they'll pay those particular influencers who have reach. So they have a large number of followers. So a lot of them... Yeah, so a lot of them are like Instagram models or etc., things like this, because those kind of businesses, they are harder to break into. This is a lot cheaper for those companies, and top companies are doing it because you actually can, with a lot of social media, you can actually track what they call reach. So if you can get in on it, do it. It's a very good way to make a lot of money right now because more people actually get their news via Twitter and Facebook than they do through television. Television is dying as a medium. Right. It's through other areas that advertisers are going to go to, and it's cheaper for those advertisers.
Well, going by what you're suggesting, with my 12 Twitter followers, I'm not going to make much, am I?
No. I think I've got 200 or something. Yeah, I'm not. They're never approaching me. I don't have reach.
And to all those potential sponsors of the CrowCast this year, it's a very poorly kept secret that CrowCast are major social media influencers in our broad sphere of just under 700 followers. So, get on board.
Ads on top.
Get on board. The good thing is, though, that we've got a good following to follower ratio. We haven't gone out and tried to haul followers by just following everyone that moves. So, there's some integrity with the CrowCast social media account, that's for sure.
Another good bit of news was the Crows, Toyota signed up for another 5 years till the end of 2023 as the major sponsor for the Adelaide Crows again. So, unlike our poor brothers down the road, we don't have trouble with sponsors.
It's such a great consistency that we've had from Toyota from the very start. I think it's still the longest running major sponsorship deal for an Australian sporting club.
It was before this, Nikki, so it will be.
It's still keeping on. I know Geelong like to try and claim about Ford, but I think there's been some that they weren't quite the major sponsor all the time. So, yeah, Geelong. The other news in terms of injury front from the AFLW, quite sad to see that Shay Sloan, who actually wasn't playing too badly for across Coda, has injured her ACL and is out for the season for Melbourne. So condolences to Shay. I hope she still has the fire in the belly. She still looked quite kind of happy after the game with her and Rory. And hopefully we do see her back.
Just a message from tech support too, Mako. Turn your bloody headphones down a little bit more. That was a bit sad for Shay. First game in. I want to talk a little...
It looked like an ankle to me.
It was a bit weird. Before we get into the AFLW, I just want to talk about the Gatorade Game Changer. Have you guys heard about the Gatorade Game Changer?
Yeah, absolutely. Took it right out of my... I was just about to raise that one, mate. If
Donkey was here, he would be absolutely doing a Talia in bed.
I just want to read something out, if I can. And sure. I don't know if anybody on Twitter follows Titus O'Reilly, who's a very, very funny tweeter. And
love him, yeah.
Very enjoyable. And I saw this one today, and I thought I've got to have this one, see this one for tonight. And he says, won't it be something when a Gatorade Game Changer from the Rampage Flyers, Bolts or Deadlies kicks a 20-point Zupa goal from the launch zone at Marvel Stadium? And I thought, are you kidding me?
Is
anybody going to watch
the
AFLX, really?
No.
That's mental.
Nobody's going to watch. I'm not going to watch.
Are they trying to package this for overseas viewing? Are they? Can I just play devil's advocate here just for a second? Because I hate it as much as everybody, but playing devil's advocate just for a second. Is the AFL actually targeting somebody other than the average footy fan? And we're just sort of missing the boat here a bit. Is that what it's all about, do you think? Well, they can't be targeting. They can't be targeting us shortly.
I don't. I actually think, Pete, that they're targeting kids, and I think it's a similar theory to 2020 cricket. I think it's catering for shorter attention spans, busier lifestyles, etc., etc. There's been a lot of sports that have tried this. Some successfully. We saw tennis try it. We've even seen golf try it.
No golf. I know they've tried it. How bad's that?
That was terrible. But every sport seems to be obsessed by the fact that no one will sit down and watch sport for long periods of time. And I actually think it's the thin edge of the wedge with regards to AFL football. And Donkey would agree with me on this because I know he's a massive supporter of AFLX.
Tongue firmly in cheek.
But I actually think we'll see this format expand. I think that they are trying to create a 2020 AFL to appeal to the disposable audience. Because let's face it, 2020 cricket attracts a different audience to tests and even one-dayers. And I think that's what Gillen, rightly or wrongly, is trying to key into.
Well, the problem is, though, that for a lot of those other sports that you listed there, they're very long games. There's a lot of dead spots in their games, whereas Aussie Rules football is not that way. There is always something going on. It's a lot faster paced than those other games. So trying to shorten it even more so just seems really odd, and to me doesn't quite understand the game they actually have in front of them. Because in terms of, like, if you compare it to the NFL where we had the Ball Fest on Monday, that whilst that game goes on for slightly longer than an AFL game, they actually only get like 12 minutes of actual football that happens, whereas we get 80 minutes of football plus that actually happens.
Didn't say it was right, Nick. Just my. I can't. I don't think they're targeting overseas, Pete, because AFL hasn't got any sort of foothold whatsoever. So I don't know. Well, maybe.
And also the difference is, the difference is that at least with 2020, I mean, you're absolutely right, Veen, that it goes for the families, kid sort of audience, and that's why they've been stupid to extend it past the school holidays. And it won't work because it's part of the fabric of Christmas school holidays now. But even so, even though it's attracted that new audience, I mean, I'll go and watch it. I mean, I go to most of the Strikers home games. A lot of people I know who are cricket purists will go and watch it because even though they've reduced the amount of time that's being played, they've not toyed with the fundamentals of the game. You're still bowling the ball, you still have to hit it. There's still stumps, and there's still, one run is one run, and a boundary is a boundary. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's still a game of cricket. AFLX is becoming barely recognisable as AFL football.
Yeah,
spot on, Pete, and that's kind of what I was trying to make the point before. And for you, going to those games, now they're not short games still. They still actually take a couple of hours, and you've got kids there who pay attention. So trying to even shorten an Aussie Rules game when you've actually got this 2020 audience with those young kids who will be there for that whole time period, which is the same as an Aussie Rules game. I mean, the amount of kids I see at the Crows home games is still quite large. They've got that audience is there already. So for me, they're trying to get this overseas audience. It's nothing to do, and that's probably why AFLX failed last year, and I suspect that this one's kind of going to fail this year, even though they've thrown a lot of money and a lot of marketing. And what is it? The captains are each getting paid $50,000. No wonder Eddie said yes.
I think they're trying to get a razzle-dazzle to try and. I honestly think that the only possible explanation for ridiculing the game as they are is to appeal to some. They're trying to have some kind of broader appeal to perhaps an overseas market, perhaps typically the US for that. With that kind of, really a kick from the launch zone.
I know. It's just crazy.
They've got to be trying to target the US, and they must know that the average Aussie Rules fan won't be taking it seriously. They must know that, surely.
The various comments from AFL House at various times have actually backed up both of you, really. Some have made the comments along the lines of the fact of the appeal to the young people because of the shorter time span. And then also, I've heard other spokesmen from AFL or read what other AFL spokesmen said about the possibility that it's played on a rectangular game the size of a soccer pitch, which gives it the ability to be transported to other countries. But from my point of view, I think it's totally unnecessary, and I am really hoping that he is the only player that we have in it, because how would any of the clubs feel if did an ACL in one of these stupid games?
Well, we talked about that briefly last week, Macca. It seems a hell of a we're talking about a competition who doesn't want to play State of Origin because of injuries, and yet we're willing to release champions of the game for what amounts to an exhibition of a hybrid prior to the season. So to me, it makes a mockery of the whole State of Origin argument, because if you're not prepared to release players for a match with, let's face it, some sort of meaning, if they did it right, then why the hell are you willing to risk Dangerfield and Fife and Cripps and Betts and these blokes, Jack Riewoldt, for an exhibition game? And let's face it, a game that is built to be fast in the pre-season where conditioning is a little bit down, if ever there was a time that you were going to be prone for injury, that was it. So I just don't understand it. To me, it's ridiculous, and I really hope that every player gets through it. Anyway, let's talk about some AFLX, shall we? AFLW. That's enough. Nikki, what the hell happened?
They controlled so much of that freaking game. It was one of those games where the opposition didn't win the game, you lost it. We had a dysfunctional forward line. There were some things very typical of the men's team, which was some really horrible disposal into the forward line, which didn't help. But overall, I quite liked some of the new players we had in there. I thought they actually did really well. And I could definitely see that Clark has brought in a lot of influence from our men's team, and particularly some of those structures and setups. The zoning defence was... the Bulldogs were having a lot of trouble with it. Their 2 goals came from complete stuff-ups by us, was us actually gifting them those goals, which they capitalise on, and full credit to them. But I do think there's a lot of positives that we could see in the team. They just kind of need to pull it together, and unfortunately, being a short season, that doesn't help.
Yeah, I thought it was a very frustrating game to watch, Nikki, quite frankly. In terms of effort, nobody could criticise effort, I thought, from both sides. Absolute 100% for effort. But the skill level, I thought, was disgraceful. I mean... Was very hot, Macca, and I suspect very slippery. I reckon I could still kick straight on a hot day, Nikki.
Yeah, but
with a sweaty ball?
Oh, Nikki, come on.
Oh, we had this... I've still got to kick 30 from 30, don't I? Macca, I think we have to stop actually talking about the standard. In my opinion, we need to take the game of AFLW for what it is, and understand that these girls are coming from other sports. They haven't been through 10 years of juniors or anything like that. And until we get a team full of young girls or girls that have gone through junior football from the age of 8 or 9 years old, we are not going to get good skills. We're going to get high intensity. We're going to get fantastic endeavour and competitiveness. But you're not going to watch AFLW and see a high skilled game. It's just asking too much at the moment. No,
sorry, just quickly. I said this last year, and I'll say it again. I tweeted it actually just about 2 days ago. These women are pioneers, and
exactly.
That is how they should be characterised. They're pioneers, and they have the AFL, to their credit, and these women who are playing AFLW and putting themselves out there, they have created a standard, I shouldn't say a standard. They've created a competition to which young women now aspire. And I don't know about anybody else, but I know that at my local football club, we are absolutely overrun. we are swamped by young girls. We've got teams now, under 12s, under 14s, under 15s, under 16s. We've got all of these girls' teams. We've had to, we're spending money now on upgrading change rooms so that we've got, proper facilities for both the boys and the girls. And these girls are coming from, when they're 11 and 12, they're now making the choice, instead of, if they're young athletic girls who are inclined to play that kind of ball sport, then they're now making the choice to not play soccer, they're playing football.
Absolutely
so girls
right,
that would, and now we've got, pathways are going to be established, and because these girls have got something to aspire to, and the women that are playing are giving them that target and that ambition, and so you just have to. Everyone just has to. I'm not having a crack at you, Macca, at all. I'm just saying that in the general populace that are having a crack at AFLW, they must understand that this is a pointer to the future. And now that it's up and now that it's established, it will only improve, I suspect, as time goes on. There's my soapbox. I've said my piece.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing about it. I'm not arguing about that. But on the particular night that we're talking about, they had a spearhead who could take a mark and kick a goal. Katie Brennan.
Yeah, but she was lazy.
But she kicked two nice goals, right?
No.
Yeah. Oh,
he's talking.
Kicked one.
No, Katie Brennan he's talking about.
Oh, Brennan.
Yeah, she kicked two goals. I think Clark made a mistake because he's got one person who could do the equivalent of that, and he played her on the ball. And you know who I'm talking about. She should have been the captain. She should have been played up forward. Because she would be the one talented forward that could have kicked us goals, and she wasn't up there very often.
Well, I'd like to follow on what I said earlier, and Pete made it quite clear as well how we feel about AFLW. But I think you're right, Macca. I think Matty Clark actually erred, and I think the club may be going down the wrong path to a degree, because he's obviously instilled a bit of a possession game, a short kicking game, a short passing game, trying to hit up targets. And as a consequence of the girls' inability to do that consistency, there was a lot of turning the ball over, a lot of wasted opportunities, etc., etc. And you're right. Why would you play Erin Phillips up forward? And I read somewhere, it could have been on Big Footy or it could have been on Twitter, I can't remember. But if you liken AFLW to junior football, where you've got a bunch of tries and a few really talented, gifted players, where do you play those talented, gifted players? You play them in the midfield and up forward. You want them to get the ball for you, and you want them to be able to convert for you. And having Erin in the middle for long periods of time, and she was clearly a little bit underdone in my opinion, and having Chelsea Randall at half back, where I would have been pushing her further up.
That's where Chelsea plays.
Yeah, and I understand that's where Chelsea plays, but you've got to understand that there's no point Chelsea knocking up getting the ball if it's coming back on her head. And I think Chelsea would be more value actually playing in the midfield and having Erin further forward, because it's not as...
She actually was playing half in the midfield, half forward. So that first season where we saw her actually playing a bit, but yeah, she was.
Yeah,
she was actually playing up quite a bit.
Well, it wasn't 50-50, Nikki. It wasn't 50-50. She was spending a lot of time in the middle. And
most of the time.
That's where a lot of our forwards were, particularly in the second half.
Look, my point is, I don't think that the game plan they're trying to pull off down at the Crows is going to be successful with this group of players, because I don't think that we can consistently hit up targets. We don't seem to have a marking target up forward. There was a girl there, and I forget her name. She dropped 2 or 3 comfortable marks that should have been gobbled up. I thought the young girl, God, I'm hopeless with names tonight, Chloe Shear, she looked really talented and will be good, but she won't be able to do it herself up forward. And I think... no,
she was lazy.
Well, she might have been lazy, but she's a kid.
I was very upset with her game, because she has a lot of that amazing talent, but what she wanted was the ball over the back. She was not interested in chasing her players. She was not interested actually leading at the ball, which is why we had a lot of problems when we were getting the ball clearly in the midfield and looking up forward, and she's standing behind her player.
Yeah.
She was not interested. Now, the pass from Alicia Considine to her, there was that brilliant pass that she did, which was over the top, and Alicia actually waited for that right sort of moment. That's where Chloe likes to do it. She likes to get her player under the ball and then outmark her coming back towards goal. But if she's going to play full forward at AFLW, she has to chase her player. She has to lead her player to the ball and then double back. Well, and she wasn't interested in doing that.
And that's exactly my point, Nikki. We can't rely on a young kid playing her first season of AFLW to be a linchpin up forward. It was a very young forward line. She needs to be playing a cameo role, and we need some experience up there to be able to settle the girls down when they're having shots for goal, to be able to take the lead and take a good mark and provide a little bit of strength around the contest when the ball's up forward. Because let's face it, in that the third quarter or whatever it was, the ball spent was in our forward line probably about 80% of the quarter, and yet two of our best players weren't involved in the contest for large parts of that quarter, in Randall and Phillips. And so we obviously miss Perkins, but
I think she straightens us up.
Yeah.
And she controls that forward line a lot better.
Exactly. It was
because that was a very young forward line.
It's like any AFL team. You have a centre-half forward who competes, and it does straighten you up, and players understand where to get to the drop of the ball. And I don't think we understood often where to position ourselves. But back to my point and just finishing it up, I do think they need to rethink where they're playing certain players, and I do think they need to rethink whether they're trying to be too cute with game plan.
I totally agree with you, that's a very good summary.
Yeah, because I think Erin, because she is that smarter kind of player, that she would have helped a bit better. We'd put Stevie Lee Thompson, who's traditionally a defender, although we did play her up forward as well in the trial game, and I know training I went to, she was actually with the forwards group. So obviously she was that slightly more mature head. We were hoping that was going to help, but because she's a defender primarily, I don't think she quite knew what she should have been doing either as well. So I would consider her part of that young forward line, even though she's a mature player. I think that's what they were trying to do, but it didn't work. There's definitely a lot of talent that is there, but you're right, Phoenix, it needs to be adjusted, and we need just those slightly better players. Just watching the warm-up, I was kind of a bit worried about poor Jess Foley, who's pretty much only had 2 weeks to learn how to ruck, even though she did play in the ruck for Sturt last year in the SANFLW, but this is a slightly different beast in the step up to AFLW. And I was looking at how tall and how mobile those Bulldogs rucks were, and then the game came around and they couldn't judge the ball.
No.
She was all over them. I thought she actually had an outstanding game in the ruck.
She was a real highlight, a real positive, Jess Foley. I felt like she dominated for large periods in those ruck contests, and a real, given it's her first crack at it, despite playing some local footy, I thought she was excellent.
I thought she did a great job.
I actually quite like the midfield without Erin in it. I mean, Renee Forth from GWS is a very good midfielder. She did some nice things. You had Hebony Marinoff. I mean, every year she's gotten better. This year that game was amazing.
Real gun. Absolute gun.
Yeah, she just needs to tighten up her kicks. They're still a bit loopy. They're still a bit Tregenza-ish. But
cruel, Nikki.
Well, hey, they gave Modra some brilliant marks.
That might be cruel, but anybody listening and all of us would have had a very, very clear vision of what Nikki just described. We all know exactly what she's talking about.
That's why I said
cruel. Because if you watched any Modra highlights package, pretty much it was him and McGuinness. Another little dolly in there, kicking the ball to Modra. So they're great for speckies. You need those players in a team if you want some good speckies. But I quite like that midfield. And then actually, I mean, I like the look of Alicia Considine, Irish import. From what we saw in the trial game, thought, she was kind of a little bit not quite there, but there was enough that I thought, yeah, we've definitely got something here. She went a step up in this game, and she's a beautiful kick, and she creates time to make the decision. I thought Maisie Nankwell, so you've got another one, cross-coder, netballer, great hands. And she was a good relief ruck because she's, again, undersized. Pity she didn't get the goal, but she had the right idea because the Bulldogs, nobody else nominated in the forward line for a ruck, so she just grabbed it and had a shot on goal. Probably had a little bit more space than what she thought. But, that's great thinking from her. And she did some really nice intercept marks. To me, there were a lot of positives, but very annoyed. Throughout that last quarter, I just had the inkling of like, we've had all this play and we just haven't been able to just really capitalise on it, and I don't think it's going to quite get there. And seeing how pissed off the girls looked at the end of the game, I was like, good.
Oh, well, I mean, there's no doubting their competitive spirit, and let's be honest, there had to have been positives because we really should have won that game by 4 goals. I mean, one player that you haven't really talked about is Ebony Marinoff, who again was outstanding. And I saw on Twitter, and the Crows have actually put it in their little write-up as well. There's been, apart from Ebony Marinoff, the most times a player has had 10-plus tackles in an AFLW game is Angelica Gogos with 4. Ebony Marinoff has had more than 10 tackles 9 times in AFL games. Yeah. I mean, she is just an absolute beast, Noffy, and she's a gun.
I actually tweeted a response to the champion data stats where she actually didn't win the tackles for the round. There were 2 other players that got 1 more tackle, and I kind of cheekily put in there, lift your game, Noffy. And she responded back to me with, it's all about balance. So she's definitely got a sense of humour, that girl. But it was so nice to see that she has really got that balance a bit more into her game. So her first season was very strong on that contest and getting the ball out to other players. Now it's she will tackle and then she will get the ball. And that's such a well-rounded player and so hard to stop.
Yeah, well, 24 or 25 touches and 11 tackles, that's a complete game.
Amazing game, actually. Yeah.
Excellent game of football.
I'll just quickly jump in on the chat. Kim Ryder has joined us. Kim saying he's new to the dance, so a new addition to the chat room. Always great to have you along. He's asked who are the hosts of CrowCast. Fiend, you want to just give us a really quick, another very, very quick intro for Kim, who's just joined us as a new listener.
Welcome, Kim. So I'm Phoenix, and that was Pete, and Nikki's the female, and Macca's the old guy.
There we go.
The learned one.
Very, very classy bit of hosting, mate. Carry on.
The old man, Mac is the old man who I always argue with because he's always wrong.
Yeah, and Kim, I recommend when the season gets underway, listen on Sunday nights because then you'll see. We'll hear Nikki and Macca going hammer and tongs, and I just sit back and laugh.
Kim, if you're not married,
gang up on you.
If you're not married, leave Nikki alone. You'd regret it for the rest of your life, mate.
Oh wow!
Oh, there we go. Bang!
Wow!
I don't mean only in the argument sense.
Welcome back, Macca.
You might find China.
Oh, God,
welcome back, Macca. That's fantastic. And g'day to Mrs. Macca too. It's magnificent.
She still loves me, I think.
Do you know,
we don't know, but we love Mrs. Macca.
Do you know, I spent some time over the off season doing a trailer for the season coming up, as I want to do. And last year, I think I did, I don't know, some parody of a horror thing. And this year, I did the scene from Casino Royale. I don't know whether you remember, like the remake of Casino Royale, where he has to plug in that little defibrillator, and he passes out before he can do it, and then someone else comes along. And Mrs. Macca actually gets a gig in that, Macca, and if I get it finished before round 1, I will post it up on Facebook because Mrs. Macca is actually M. The boss of the whole show, and I thought that was pretty appropriate.
I want to be Dame Judi Dench.
No, you were...
Yes, but Mrs. Macca, yes.
You were the one that plugged in the defib at the end, Nick, so you saved the day. So you had a good one.
Nice.
If that was on me, she'd pull it out.
Yeah, you weren't... Actually, Macca, I don't think you were in it.
Thanks
sorry.
for that.
Anyway, who we got next week in the AFLW?
We're playing Carlton.
Carlton, so there's a win there.
Yeah. I have to say, I really enjoyed the games on Sunday. There were some really top quality games there. So thinking back over the weekend, I know the Bulldogs are considered to be fairly strong. And it was a really great pressure game. So I do wonder whether there was that first game nerves, the pressure that was being applied by both teams, Macca, that kind of, because they were stuffing up a lot of possessions as well. So I wonder whether that kind of fed into it. And then watching those 3 games on Sunday, that Carlton, not that good. They're a bit like, I think they're better than their men's team, but that's not saying much.
That should be a win for us, Nikki.
It should be. They still do have some players to worry about, but the loss of Brianna Davey for the year, and then they've, of course, then lost Lauren Arnell, who's gone up to Brisbane and who played really well. The Brisbane GWS game was an outstanding one to watch. Freo have improved quite well. Melbourne, I'm still a bit on the fence about them as to where they kind of fit. I do think that the loss of Shea, that what happens when you get an injured player, you're down. Everybody else just seems to lift that little bit. So whether that might be a part of how well they then went in the second half because of that, I think it's a bit of wait and see on them. North Melbourne did an absolute outstanding job in raiding the other clubs, and they picked the right players, the ones that they went after. Mo Hope has done an absolute body of work. She's slimmed down. I mean, she was always quite a good talent, but she didn't quite have that speed and everything else that was holding her back. But they've put a really good forward line around her, so it's not just her, there are others. But I think their outstanding pickup was Emma King in the ruck, who had an amazing, amazing game. So if anybody is actually interested in watching, where I think the sport can go, particularly for the AFLW, North Melbourne's definitely one to keep an eye on.
Good call, Nick. And they sit on top of Conference A, and of course the Lions and
with a 300 and something percentage.
Yeah, just smashed it out against. They play round 1 again. They played Carlton, yeah. And obviously the Lions and the Cats in Conference B. Freo getting off to a start as well. So interesting times, and we'll probably leave the AFLW there unless you got some final words, Nick. No. All right. Well, I mean, 45 minutes in, pretty much. We've done the news. We've done Daniel Talia's definitive action for the year.
And PJ's only just turned up in the chat. You're late, PJ.
PJ Crows is on daylight savings time by 2, and Morley. For
speaking of the chat, I just saw a hint there from Vardy Magic that. Kim Ryder, who I said had just joined the chat, was actually the Kim Ryder that challenged for the board last year. So, maybe I'm not sure if he's challenging, if there's another nomination from him coming up, but he was, I think he challenged the supporters position last year. So I'm not sure if it's the same Kim Ryder, but I'm assuming it is because Vardy sort of outed him there, saying that he was running. So, interesting that we'd have him listening.
Well,
and I think Vardy's Magic saying there that he's running again this year as well. So good luck to him.
Is the member wrap up again this year? Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
We might have you on for a chat at some stage, Kim. If you want to have a chat, send us a DM on Twitter or Facebook message us or something, and we can hook you up and have a bit of a chat. See what you're all about. Guys, I reckon that might be it for tonight. Short and sharp to the point, but not much.
One little thing I was going to raise.
Here we go.
No, it's interesting. Just as a point of interest.
Related, is it, Macca?
You want me to talk about the cricket?
No.
No, okay. I'm quite happy to. I'll talk about Burton too if you want. No, but coming back, the topic I was going to raise was about, interestingly enough, there's 9 vacancies in the AFL spread across various teams where they can still pick up players up until March the 15th. And what they've done, they've had players from various competitions. Like, for example, Richmond have had this young teenager, Sydney Stack, from Western Australia training with them. And it's I just wonder whether that's something that's worth doing, and considering from a Crow's point of view in future, that if you've got your eye on somebody in one of the various state leagues anywhere around Australia, whether you can get them to train with you and leave it to the last minute to see whether they look like they're going to cut the mustard or not.
Yeah, it's one that snuck up on everyone, I think, Macca. No one really paid much attention to that little thing. And isn't there also something, or is this the same thing? Now, one of the teams lost someone for the season, and they're able to pick up someone out of the state league.
Yeah, Thomas Bugg. That's Carlton.
That's right.
Yeah, and he for some reason he decided to retire at this stage, and I think Pete was talking about that. Pete talked about before Nicky was about the ability to earn money.
Come on. We've covered that, Macca. I just want to know about the pickup rule.
Yeah, and so basically they've got till March the 15th that they can actually have these people train all the way through, and then make a decision at March the 15th, and then a second decision can be made in a mid-season draft as long as you've got that vacancy as well. So it is a very good opportunity, I think, to have a good look at it outside if you're not really sure one way or the other.
Well, we seem to follow so much what happens in the US, and when we look at the NBA, and we see that our very own Mitch Creek from the LA 36ers, he got signed up on a 10-day contract by the Brooklyn Nets, and then that was worth 130 grand Aussie for a 10-day contract. And then I just see today tweeted that he's been picked up for a second 10-day contract for another 130 grand. So it's not bad cash, but I'm not sure whether we ever get to the point where we can just pick up guys on 10-day contracts. But interesting, interesting to see if we can move to give clubs a little bit more flexibility in that way.
Look, I'm all for flexibility. I actually think that the draft, whilst it's been a necessary evil in terms of equalisation, I think it's just about done its dash. And I think in modern sport, the ability to pick one out of the stands and have them come in and play a role for a few weeks, it adds a bit of spice to the competition. Balance is always an issue, but if you put the right set of rules and parameters around it, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting, and because I hadn't been really aware. I had vaguely been aware of it. Then I was only just catching up on all the news on the AFL site, and I just read this particular article, and I thought, gee, there's vacancies for 9 players. It's a lot of players, and Sydney they got their eye on somebody, and GWS etc. And it's something I think that may well sneak into all the teams eventually.
Need to make mention too, J Mac, one of our long-standing supporters and followers on the chat, who's from far north Queensland, just commenting about the terrible floods up there at the moment. So from all of us here, J Mac, and I'm sure everyone listening, all the best up there. Hope you guys are well, you and your family, and hope you can bounce back reasonably quickly. Pete, take us out. When are we going to have our little mystery media personality pop in? Is that in a few weeks' time?
It should be. Yeah. I'm thinking, Fiend, perhaps the week before JLT1, just to, and I think that we could stitch together a reasonable episode on. Perhaps having a bit of a chat about the pre-season as we draw to a conclusion on the pre-season training stuff, and then perhaps look to preview that big JLT1 showdown with Port Adelaide. What do you think?
I like it.
I reckon the Tuesday before JLT1, and I'm not sure what date that is, but I reckon we can put together a cracker episode.
I like it. And no, the reports that Sam McClure quit Channel 7 in order to join the CrowCast are ill-founded.
I think he would run from us.
Ill-founded. He did apply. We ran him through a rigorous integrity check and he failed at the first hurdle. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much for Nikki.
Just one little thing that just came out of the chat just regarding those floods up in far north Queensland. So absolute kudos to the Brisbane and the Gold Coast players who've been donating $10,000 each, apparently, for the flood relief up there. That is outstanding from those players.
Outstanding indeed. Thank you, Peter, Nikki and Macca. Thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. We will be back next Tuesday to talk about round 2 of the AFLW and all the Crows news. So until then, thanks for joining us and we'll see you later on.
Yep, good night all.